Very good morning. You're watching Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tina Jha. These are the headlines we are tracking this Thursday morning. Death figure in Gujarat violence rises to 8 as army conducts flag marches in several places. Curfew also clamped. Tragedy on live television. A reporter and a camera person are shot dead by a disgruntled ex-employee of an American TV station. Gunman later kills himself. Stay on Sania Mirza's Khel Ratna Award by the Karnataka High Court after plea against it by Paralympic athlete H.N. Girisha. And ISRO to launch its 25th communication satellite GSAT-6 from Sriharikota today. Well, our top focus this morning. Army has been called in to control the widespread violence in Gujarat. The agitation to demand OBC quota has claimed at least 8 lives so far. This despite curfew imposed in several cities across the state, including Ahmedabad. Internet services on mobile phones have been suspended in the most sensitive parts of the state to check the spread of rumors through WhatsApp and SMS.
Violent clashes have claimed at least 8 lives across Gujarat as members of the Patel community continue their agitation for reservation under the OBC quota. The situation has deteriorated to such an extent that the army has been called in. They have joined a 5,000-strong force of paramilitary personnel already stationed in the state. Amid appeals for maintaining peace and calm from the Prime Minister and the Chief Minister, the army conducted flag marches on 5 routes in Ahmedabad, which is the epicenter of the agitation.
महात्मा गांधी અને સરદાર પટેલની ભૂમિમાં ગઈકાલ સાંજથી જે પ્રકારનું વાતાવરણ બન્યું છે, જે રીતે હિંસાનો આશરો લેવામાં આવી રહ્યો છે, આપણે બધા જાણીએ છીએ હિંસાથી ક્યારેય કોઈનું ભલું નથી થવાનું. મારી સૌ નાગરિક ભાઈઓ બહેનોને વિનંતી છે कि અત્યારે एक જ मंत्र होय આપણો शांति.
गुजरात के सभी प्रजाजनों को मैं निवेदन करती हूँ, अपील करती हूँ कि आप शांति रखिए, सलामती का माहौल बनाइए. सरकारी संपत्ति वही हमारी संपत्ति है और सब लोगों के बीच शांति बनी रहे, सब एक दूसरे को सहयोग करें. फिर से मैं सभी गुजरात के भाई बहनों को विनती करती हूँ कि आप शांति रखिए, ऐसी मैं आप सबको अपील करती हूँ.
The tension is a result of a mega rally called for and led by 21-year-old Hardik Patel. He is at the forefront of the agitation to demand reservation for Patels. He puts the blame for all the violence on the police.
જે વિસ્તારમાં પાટીદાર યુવાનોની હત્યા કરવામાં આવી છે, એ વિસ્તારમાં જે તે પોલીસ અધિકારી હોય કે નીચામાં નીચો અધિકારી, ચાહે કોન્સ્ટેબલ હોય કે એએસઆઈ હોય, પીએસઆઈ હોય, પીઆઈ હોય, એ લોકોને 48 કલાકની અંદર સસ્પેન્ડ કરવામાં આવે. કોઈ પણ ભોગે જે વિસ્તારોમાં અત્યારે આંદોલન ચાલી રહ્યા છે, મહેરબાની કરીને ગવર્મેન્ટને ચેતવણી આપીએ છીએ, વિનંતી પણ કરીએ છીએ કે પોલીસ તંત્રને પાછું લઈ લો.
The centre is keeping a close watch on the situation and has assured the state government of full backing in tackling the situation. Curfew is in place in Ahmedabad, Surat, Rajkot, Mehsana, Patan, Palanpur, Unjha, Visnagar and Jamnagar.
शांति बनाए रखने से देश की भला है और सबकी भला है, इसलिए इस तरह से हिंसा होना नहीं चाहिए. और जो भी है वो तो राज्य सरकार देखेंगे, लेकिन शांति बनाए रखना वो सबके लिए ज़रूरी है.
2 बजे 9 पुलिस स्टेशन के विस्तार में एहतियात के तौर पे कर्फ्यू लगाया गया है. देर रात तक स्थिति सुधरी है और आज सुबह से हम स्थिति के ऊपर नज़र रख रहे हैं. एक बंद का कॉल है. जो पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेस हमारे पास हैं वो भी एरिया के अंदर पेट्रोलिंग कर रहे हैं. मिलजुल के स्थिति अभी जो है सामान्य की तरह जा रही है.
लोगों के टोले इकट्ठे हो रहे हैं, पर हर एक जगह पे हमने बंदोबस्त रख दिया है और हमारे डीसीपी, एसीपी, पीआई और एसआरपी की कंपनियां सभी जगह पे पेट्रोलिंग कर रही है. हालांकि अभी तो राजकोट में फिलहाल शांति है.
Normal life is paralyzed across Gujarat as schools, colleges and businesses remain closed in most places. Incidents of arson and stone pelting were also reported from some places. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, our correspondent Vishal Daya, who's been tracking the story very closely, joins us on the phone line from Ahmedabad. Well, Vishal, after a tense day yesterday, what's the latest in the state? Is the situation likely to return to normalcy anytime soon?
Well, that's what the administration and the state government is hoping. And let me tell you that overnight, what the information early morning when I spoke to senior police officials out here, there has not been, many untoward incidents over the night. Just one or two sporadic incidents of some people being, stopped by the police, taken in for inquiry, and then let out. As far as the curfew is concerned, well, there has been no relaxation in at least in Ahmedabad in those 9 police station areas where it was, put in place yesterday. And the army is out in full force in the city. Yesterday also it did a flag march. Today also we're being told that the Jawans of the army units will be again doing a flag march. There is, what we are being told is that there is a strong sentiment within the Patel community that the state police has manhandled and sort of misbehaved with the members of their community. They've been hit around unprovoked, and that's what is the message which was sent across by Hardik Patel, the 22-year-old leader of this entire agitation to the state government. Hardik yesterday gave a 48-hour ultimatum to the state government asking them to take action against those erring police officers. But from the state government side, what we understand is that their first priority and the administration's first priority is to bring back normalcy, bring back peace, maintain law and order in not only in Ahmedabad but in several other parts. And let's not forget that it's not only about Ahmedabad. There are several other cities, and such as Surat. There are other districts as well, such as Mehsana, wherein the incidents of violence were reported day before yesterday as well, and yesterday also. There's an unofficial figure of 9 people dead so far in this violence, although officially till yesterday evening around 8 p.m. we were told by the state government officials that the official figure is around 5, but by the morning, unofficially, the count seems to have risen to 9, which includes a constable, a police constable in Surat, who also is said to have come to his injuries late yesterday night. But there are, it seems, efforts from the state government, the police personnel, the paramilitary personnel which have been sent by the center, and also the army, as I said earlier, they are out in full force to ensure that law and order is maintained. As far as the moot issue is concerned, that's the demand of the Patel community for a reservation. Well, that's an issue on which both sides, that's the leaders of the Patel community and the state government, still stand by their own respective stands. As of now, we don't have any info so far on any back channel talks which might have been initiated between both sides to try and bring a solution to this issue. So it seems, once again, first and foremost priority which the state government seems to have right now is to ensure that peace and stability, harmony is maintained, and law and order is once again there should not be another situation wherein law and order is taken into hands by anyone.
Right, Vishal. Many thanks for joining us with all those details. So law and order problem remains the priority for the government at the moment. Meanwhile, also joining us in the studio this morning is Aditi Fadnis, political editor of the Business Standard. A very good morning, Aditi. So first of all, looking at the situation, of course, it's gone out of hand. Your view on what you think, is the demand for this reservation justified from a community which is, supposedly so prosperous?
Well, what I think is of no relevance because the community thinks that their demand is justified. It's true that the Patel community has many diamond merchants. In fact, one of the leaders, a parallel leader of the Patel community, has said that the community must take care of its own unemployed young men and women. But levels of education are not that high. And there is a general feeling of grievance that, they need to be supported. As I said, the community has to chip in somewhat, but I think the state government has to take care of this. Normally, the pattern sometimes has been that a faction or a group from the community which is opposed to the leadership of the state government sort of incites people to create conditions where the continuance of the leadership in the state government becomes difficult.
In this case, what do you think could have been the factors? As you said, education now, they are now wanting to move towards education. So what are the factors that could have led to this move from land to education?
So it's very difficult, the profile of the Gujarat economy is changing, the profile of the global economy is changing. Those who are wealthy and prosperous can afford to send their children abroad for education, etc. But those who have to eke out an existence from the land, and finding that it's becoming very difficult to eke out an existence because land is becoming fragmented. The Patels have diversified into number of areas. The joke in the US is that the entire motel trade in the US is controlled by Patels who come from Gujarat to the US. They have gone to such far-flung places as Kenya, as Nigeria, etc. So they are a very enterprising community, but those who are left behind in Gujarat feel that they are somehow left out of this kind of general prosperity that the community is seeing. Added to that is the community's own feeling that we are politically influential and yet socially and economically people are not addressing our problems. So this is a complicated issue. We have seen such agitations in the past also. As I said, some of them are motivated agitations, which are begun with a view to discrediting the state government. I don't think there's any element of that in this agitation. I think it's a spontaneous one.
So the point that you were making, because it stems from the fact that when we were hearing Hardik Patel on 25th of August when he was addressing the rally, one very interesting point that he made was stop reservation and we're going to end the agitation. So it looks like this agitation has, it's a result of anti-reservation. It's basically not something that you are demanding for your own community. It's basically a repercussion of reservation, the system of reservation that we have in our country.
We have been seeing anti-reservation agitations of late quite openly. In Karnataka, there has been a rash of anti-reservation agitations. In Gujarat, the reservationists and the anti-reservationists have been at loggerheads for many years now. So it's not what Mr. Patel is saying is not something new. But at the root of it is the fact that somebody else is taking away what is rightfully ours.
Right.
And that is a very complicated issue to address. How do you, how do you say this is rightfully mine, and how do you prevent people from appearing to take it away from you?
Certainly. Aditi, do stay with us. We'll come back to you and understand what's the political side of this story. Meanwhile, while the agitation for the quota goes on in Gujarat, the Union Cabinet on Wednesday okayed amendments in the central list of OBCs. The correction was in connection to a few communities in Gujarat and Uttarakhand. In the cabinet meeting chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the government has given the green signal for suitable amendments to the list as per the advice received from the National Commission for Backward Classes. The latest list will include Sipai and Patni Jamaat or Turk Jamaat in Gujarat and the Kahar and Tawar Singharia communities from Uttarakhand. Coming back to you, Aditi. So, this move from the cabinet on a day when, you're seeing Gujarat is simmering, it's boiling. How justified is it? Is it, it's like rubbing into what the protesters are demanding. And of course, it's the home state of the Prime Minister.
Well, there are a lot of issues there. Just because it's the home state doesn't mean that people don't feel a sense of grievance.
Couldn't it have been put on for a later date?
People's collective grievance cannot be put off. It has to be addressed. And I think the state government has been somewhat tardy in addressing them. They should have... they've allowed things to build up to a point where it's kind of spilled out into the open. We've seen this happen. Sometimes state government interventions are and sometimes they're not so good. So I think, but I think now things are pretty much under control. Once the army gets called in, the army is totally even-handed and totally objective. It does not distinguish between Patels or anybody else. And it will, once it starts patrolling the streets and it does a flag march, frankly, all doors are shut then.
Politically, there's a lot at stake for the BJP. The Patels have been their largest support base in Gujarat. What do you think are the options before the government now?
No, it has to talk to these people. It has to call these people, give them a sense of reassurance that, we will address all your problems. We don't even know what their problems are. I mean, it has not been discussed at any national forum, at any kind of any other forum. I think this agitation is slightly different from the previous agitations we've seen for Jat reservation and Gujar reservation. The Gujar reservation hasn't yet died down. The Gujars are demanding that they be treated as a scheduled tribe, and that has caused the Meenas, who are a scheduled tribe, enormous resentment because they think that the Gujars will then eat into their share of of what is theirs. So this notion of what is mine and how can you take it away from me, that notion has to be addressed and it has to be modified. It has to be in line with overall priorities of a government.
All right, Aditi, we'll have to leave it at that. Thanks very much for joining us and giving us your perspective. Meanwhile, time for a very short break here on the news, on the Breakfast News. But coming up after that, Rahul Gandhi to interact with saffron farmers on the second day of his Jammu and Kashmir visit. Details on that when we return.
The Queen of the Arabian Sea, all set to get another feather in its cap.
We're going to talk about Cochin's metro project.
We'll take you behind the scenes to get a closer look.
These all pier and all superstructure stands on the piles.
The clock never stops here at the Kochi metro. In fact, they keep working 24/7.
Watch our special report, putting Kochi on track at these times on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching Breakfast News. So on the second day of his three-day visit to Jammu and Kashmir, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi will be interacting with saffron farmers in Pulwama. Later, he will be addressing a rally in Sopore. He's also expected to meet the Srinagar flood victims and trade representatives. Earlier on Wednesday, Gandhi met with the families of 6 civilians, including a headman and a teacher, who were killed in ceasefire violations by Pakistan on Independence Day. He also appealed that the centre should meet the demands of the victims of Pakistan shelling, including on rehabilitation, compensation and insurance cover. And now a look at some of the other stories that are likely to unfold during the course of the day in our segment, The Day Ahead. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate a 2-day summit of 24 countries on child and maternal mortality. The summit is named Call to Action 2015 and will discuss all areas such as water, nutrition, sanitation, health, financing, corporate partnerships, game-changing innovations and accountability to prevent child and maternal deaths. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal is in Bihar today for the Empowering Citizens Through Efficient Public Delivery System event. He's been invited as a chief guest for the event. Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar will also be present at the event, where both will share the stage. Kejriwal will also go to Bodh Gaya later in the day. The Madras High Court will hear Chennai Super Kings' plea over the suspension from the IPL tournament. The IPL team CSK was banned from the tournament after its top official Gurunath Mayappan was found involved in the betting scam of 2013 in the Justice Lodha Committee probe. Shifting focus to education now. More boys are dropping out from schools these days without completing elementary education. In a written reply to Parliament, the government has said this is only partly due to poor academic performance. Let's take a look at what are the other factors that are preventing boys from studying.
Gone are the days when the number of girl dropouts in schools were a cause of concern. According to the latest figures, more number of boys are opting out of school than girls. Figures for 2013-14 show that against 39% boys, only 33% girls dropped out of school without completing elementary education.
This is not a dropout. This is actually pushed out, because the conditions from social condition, economic conditions, and they need more employment, job to serve their families.
In 2012-13, girls outnumbered boys 41% to 40.3% in dropping out of primary school. The trend reversed barely a year later, more in the upper primary classes from the 5th to the 8th standard.
Co-ed system is converted into morning for girls and afternoon for the boys. And then they suffer, boys suffer. In the afternoon schools, there is almost no teaching. No teaching takes place. People go to their villages. From urban, they go to villages, and initially they say they are going for a week or so, but they stay for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and that also results in dropout.
Despite the Right to Education Act and 100% enrollment, the quality of education and retention are very low. And after the success with girls, the government needs to arrest the dropout rate among boys. Anshu J. Singh's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
A look now at all the other national stories in Nationwide. India and Seychelles have signed an agreement to curb tax evasion. Both the countries have also signed a number of agreements like strengthening maritime security ties, cooperation on blue economy and also in sectors such as agricultural research and space. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and visiting Seychelles President James Alex Michel described the archipelago as a key strategic partner of India. In a late-night development in the sensational murder of 24-year-old Sheena Bora, the police quizzed former media baron Peter Mukherjee's son Rahul late last night. Rahul has reportedly been in a relationship with the deceased. The Mumbai police have also seized Indrani Mukherjee's passport, besides a laptop and mobile phone. Meanwhile, the police said that they would recreate the entire crime scene, which Indrani and her driver executed on 23rd of April 2012. 5 people were killed by a speeding train while crossing the railway track near Rajendra Nagar terminal station in Bihar. According to East Central Railway CPRO, the victims were crossing the tracks and did not notice that a Patna-Islampur passenger train was approaching. The bodies are yet to be identified. The flood situation in Assam is showing signs of improvement as water levels have begun receding. More than 1.45 lakh people have been hit by the floods in over 300 villages across the state, and 15 people have died so far. Well, on the diplomatic front, foreign ministers of India and Germany on Wednesday hoped for a strong momentum for text-based negotiations, which could lead to a positive outcome in the reform of the United Nations ahead of its 70th anniversary. India and Germany are among the G4 nations which support each other's bids for a permanent seat at the United Nations. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj also held talks with her German counterpart. The Indian government caused some unpleasantness last November when it discontinued the teaching of German language as an alternative to Sanskrit. However, both sides are close to resolving the problem, and an announcement is likely during Chancellor Angela Merkel's visit to India in October. Meanwhile, our top international focus, a gunman who shot dead 2 journalists on live TV in Virginia yesterday has killed himself. According to news reports, he shot himself after he was surrounded by the police following a chase. He has been identified as Westerly Flanagan and was an ex-employee of WDBJ7 TV, the channel for which the 2 young journalists, Alison Parker and Adam Ward, worked. Social media postings of the gunman reveal he held a grudge against his former employer, which fired him 2 years ago. Tributes poured in for the 2 young journalists. The White House too condemned the incident in strongest words and called on the Congress to rapidly pass gun control laws.
Is another example of gun violence that is becoming all too common in communities large and small, all across the United States. And while there is no piece of legislation that will end all violence in this country, there are some common sense things that only Congress can do that we know would have a tangible impact in reducing gun violence in this country.
Let's take national news in World Wrap. South Sudan's President Salva Kiir have signed a peace deal to end a 20-month conflict with the rebels. He also voiced reservations to the regional African leaders attending the ceremony in the capital. President Kiir, who has led South Sudan since it ceded from Sudan in 2011, had asked for more time for consultations last week, drawing threats of UN sanctions if he failed to ink it within a 2-week deadline. Ukraine and pro-Russian separatists agreed to strive for an end to all truce violations from next Tuesday. The two sides agreed in February to a ceasefire between their forces in eastern Ukraine in parallel to a political process, including plans for local elections and establishment of a special self-management status for separatist-minded regions. But sporadic clashes between the two forces have undermined it. At least 50 people have been found dead in the hold of a boat carrying migrants intercepted off the coast of Libya. Italian media reports say the deaths were probably caused by asphyxiation. About 430 people were rescued alive from the boat by a Swedish Coast Guard ship working with the EU's Frontex border agency. Thousands of migrants have died and many thousands have been rescued after setting sail from Libya recently. Earlier in August, the Italian Navy discovered the bodies of 49 people in the hold of a vessel. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has said there is no time to lose in achieving a lasting deal to limit global warming ahead of the Paris Climate Conference in December. Ban Ki-moon urged world leaders to look beyond their national interests and make sure a global deal to fight climate change is agreed at talks later this year. In sports news now, the Karnataka High Court has put a stay on the conferring of the prestigious Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna Award to Sania Mirza after finding substance in the claim of para-athlete H.N. Girisha. The court also issued notices to Sports Ministry and the tennis ace. The 2012 London Paralympic silver medalist H.N. Girisha filed a plea against the recommendation of Mirza by the Sports Ministry. In his plea, Girisha said that he deserved to win the coveted award more than Sania because he was the top contender with 90 points against his name and the tennis star was far behind him as per performance-based point system. Justice A.S. Bopanna, who heard the case on a petition filed by Girisha, sought replies from the respondents as to why Girisha's name was overlooked in favour of Sania Mirza, considering the point system being implemented by the central government. Justice Bopanna also directed the respondents to reply to the notices within 15 days.
See, based upon the criteria and the rules, he scores 90 points. And for the period from 1st January 2011 till 31st December 2014. This is the period of computation for the purpose of 2015 Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna Award. Now when Girish scores 90 points and Sania has not made any medal in the Olympics and she has played certain open tournaments which is not computable. And in 2015 she has made a medal with mixed doubles with another country's sports person which cannot be considered because it is outside the computation period. So therefore in the period of computation Girish is the one, Padma Shri Girish is the one who has the best merits not only as against Sania but as against every other nominee.
Well, staying with sports news in Sports Beat. Indian athlete Lalita Babur gave an impressive performance to finish 8th in the women's 3,000 meter steeplechase at the World Athletics Championships in Beijing. Lalita clocked 9 minutes and 29.64 seconds despite leading majority of the race. The race was won by Kenyan Kiang Jipkemoi in 9 minutes and 19.11 seconds. Indian sprinter Tintu Luka took the 7th place in the heats of the women's 800 meters race at the World Athletics Championship to book a place at the 2016 Rio Olympics. However, the 7th place finish meant she couldn't qualify for the finals of the World Championships. Luka is currently the Asian champion and also the national record holder. South Africa defeated New Zealand by 62 runs in the third ODI in Durban to clinch the series 2-1. Batting first, Morne van Wyk's 58 and AB de Villiers' 64-run contribution took the Proteas to 283 for 7 in 50 overs. David Wayes' 3-wicket knock, while Keziso Rabada's 2-wicket haul helped South Africa bowl New Zealand out for 221. Manchester United clinched a spot in the group stages of the UEFA Champions League after securing a 4-0 win in the second leg and 7-1 aggregate victory in the playoff against Club Brugge. Captain Wayne Rooney was United's talisman as he scored a hat-trick to seal an emphatic victory, and Herrera scored the 4th goal for United. And ISRO will launch its 25th communication satellite, GSAT-6, from Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh today. The satellite will be propelled into space by satellite launcher GSLV-D6 at 4:52 p.m. The cuboid-shaped GSAT-6 is the 12th satellite in the GSAT series, which has a liftoff mass of 2,117 kilograms. The satellite provides communication through 5 spot beams in S-band and a national beam in C-band for strategic users. After its commissioning, GSAT-6 will join the group of India's other operational geostationary satellites. The countdown for the launch began on Wednesday, and the mission life of the satellite is 9 years. That's it from us. Have a nice day.